Hey everyone, tonight we're stripping away the modern world miles, your smartphone, your grocery store, your Netflix subscription, even your concept of a weekend, and dropping you into humanity's longest running lifestyle, the hunter-gatherer existence. For 95% of human history, this wasn't a lifestyle choice or a trendy paleo diet, it was just life. And spoiler alert, you probably wouldn't have lasted a season. So before we venture into the wilderness together, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We're going back 20,000 years, to a time when humans were just another species trying not to get eaten, and survival meant knowing which berries wouldn't kill you, and which end of a mammoth was safe to approach. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the Pleistocene epoch, roughly 20,000 years ago. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, everything else is trying to change that, including your breakfast, your shelter, and that thing rustling in the bushes that may or may not be planning to eat you. Let's start with where you live. Forget the concept of home as a fixed location. You don't have an address, a mortgage, or even a particularly reliable cave. You have wherever you happen to fall asleep last night, which might be a rock overhang, a patch of dry ground, or if you're really lucky, a cave that doesn't already have tenants with claws and attitude problems. Your bedroom is whatever animal hide you managed to scrape together, assuming you successfully killed something recently and didn't mess up the leather-making process. The floor is dirt, leaves, or stone. Your pillow is a rock, a bundle of grass, or your own arm, if you're feeling fancy. There's no thread count to worry about, because thread hasn't been invented yet. The walls of your shelter, if you have walls, or whatever nature provided, or whatever you could cobble together from sticks, stones and animal bones. Interior decorating consists of not letting the fire go out, and keeping your few possessions where you can grab them quickly when something with teeth comes calling. Privacy doesn't exist, or you're living with your extended family group, which means anywhere from 15 to 30 people depending on how many relatives haven't been eaten by predators or died from infected wounds. Everyone knows everyone's business, because everyone's business affects everyone's survival. That snoring problem you have, it's not just annoying, it might attract predators. That digestive issue from eating questionable roots, everyone's going to know about it. Your neighborhood is wherever your tribe happens to be wandering this season. Could be a river valley, a grassland, a forest, or a coastline. The commute consists of walking everywhere, carrying everything you own, and hoping you don't run into territorial neighbors who speak a different language and express disagreement with spears. The view from your bedroom window changes constantly because you don't have windows and your bedroom moves every few days or weeks. One morning you wake up to mountains, the next to endless grasslands, and occasionally to the rather alarming sight of large predators checking out your camp like it's a buffet. Your bed doesn't come with a warranty, your roof leaks every time it rains, and your security system consists of taking turns, staying awake to watch for things that go bump in the night. But hey, at least you don't have to worry about property taxes, noisy neighbors, or HOA fees. Welcome to hunter-gatherer real estate. Location, 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 and the locations keep changing, because standing still means starvation. You've made it through another night without being eaten, frozen, or poisoned. Congratulations, you're already beating the odds. Time for your morning routine, which bears absolutely no resemblance to anything you'd recognize as civilized. First, you need to check if everyone in your group is still alive. This isn't a casual good morning. It's a practical inventory of your survival resources. Dead people can't help hunt, gather, or watch for predators. They also attract scavengers, which means you either need to move camp or deal with some very unwelcome visitors. Your bathroom is anywhere that's downwind from camp and hopefully not near your water source. There's no toilet paper, no privacy, and definitely no reading material. You're using leaves, grass, smooth stones, or whatever else won't give you a rash in uncomfortable places. The whole process is quick because being vulnerable and exposed is dangerous. Personal hygiene is basic and practical. You might splash water on your face. If there's a clean water source nearby, balls. Don't expect it to be warm. You'll rub dirt off your hands and maybe try to get the worst of yesterday's blood and grime off your skin. Dental care consists of chewing on fibrous plants or using a pointed stick to pick out food particles. Your teeth are already showing wear from a lifetime of gnawing on tough food, and dental problems are a slow death sentence. Your wardrobe is whatever animal skins you've managed to tan and sew together. These clothes are stiff, they smell like the animals they came from, and they're not exactly tailored for comfort. You've got whatever furs and hides you could scavenge, trade, or kill for. In summer, you might wear very little because overheating is dangerous. In winter, you bundle up in layers of animal skins and hope it's enough to prevent frostbite. Most days you have no idea what you look like, and frankly, you probably don't want to know. Your hair is matted, your face is weathered, and your hands are permanently stained with dirt, blood, and plant matter. The morning news consists of checking the weather, looking for signs of nearby animals, and scanning for potential threats. That cloud formation might mean rain, which could be good or bad depending on your water situation. Those tracks near camp might mean dinner, or might mean you're about to become dinner. Your morning coffee is water, assuming you can find some that won't make you sick. Your breakfast is whatever you didn't eat yesterday, if anything. And your to-do list is simple. Find food, avoid death, don't let the fire go out. The morning commute involves the whole group breaking camp and moving to wherever the food might be. You pack up your entire life, which thankfully fits in a few bundles you can carry, and start walking. No traffic jams, but plenty of other hazards like difficult terrain, weather, and the constant risk of getting lost or separated from the group. Your morning routine is less about feeling refreshed and more about confirming you're still alive and functional enough to face another day of trying not to die. It's not glamorous, but it's efficient, and in the Pleistocene, efficiency means survival. Forget career choices, professional development, or wondering what you want to be when you grow up. In the hunter-gatherer world, there's only one job: survival specialist, and it's a full-time position with terrible hours, no benefits, and the ultimate performance review: mice death. Your job description is deceptively simple: acquire food, avoid becoming food, and help your group do the same. But the skill set required is absolutely staggering. You need to be a tracker, a botanist, a toolmaker, a weather predictor, a first aid medic, a psychologist, a diplomat, a warrior, and a chef, all rolled into one. And you need to be good at all of these things because being bad at any of them could kill you. Let's start with the hunting part. Forget the romantic image of the noble hunter taking down a mammoth with a spear. Most of your hunting involves small game: mice, rabbits, birds, fish, anything you can catch without getting trampled, gored, or eaten in return. You're using traps, snares, throwing sticks, and crude spears. Your success rate is maybe 20% on a good day, and that's if you're skilled and lucky. The tools you're working with are stone, bone, and wood. That's it. No steel, no firearms, no compound bows. Your spear is a sharpened stick with maybe a stone point if you're advanced. Your knife is a sharp rock. Your bow, if you have one, is a bent stick with plant fiber for string. These tools break, wear out, and need constant maintenance. Hunting large game is a group effort that's incredibly dangerous. You're essentially running at a several hundred-pound animal with sharp, pointy sticks and hoping you can wound it enough to track it down before it recovers and decides to charge. People die doing this. People get trampled, gored, or just plain kicked to death by animals that don't appreciate being stabbed. Then there's the gathering part, which sounds peaceful but is actually a complex science. You need to know which plants are edible, which are poisonous, which are medicinal, and which are only edible if processed correctly. Get it wrong, and you're looking at anything from a stomachache to a very unpleasant death. Seasonal timing is crucial. You need to know when fruits ripen, when nuts fall, when roots are at their most nutritious, and when various plants are available. Miss the window, and you've missed a crucial food source. Some plants are only edible for a few weeks out of the year. The gathering territory you need to cover is enormous. You're not just picking berries in your backyard. You're ranging across miles of terrain, competing with other animals for the same resources, and hoping you can find enough food to feed your entire group. This means long days of walking, bending, digging, and carrying heavy loads of food back to camp. Your workplace is wherever the food is, which changes constantly. One day you're fishing in a river, the next you're tracking deer through thick forest, and the day after that you're digging roots in a meadow. Your commute is measured in miles, not minutes, and it's all on foot across terrain that ranges from difficult to deadly. There's no sick leave, no vacation time, and no retirement plan. You work until you die, and you die when you can't work anymore. The learning curve is steep, the margin for error is zero, and the consequences of failure are permanent. Your performance review happens daily. Did you find food? Did you avoid predators? Did you help the group survive? If the answer to any of these is no, you might not live long enough to improve your performance. Welcome to the original gig economy, where every day is a hustle, and your boss is the entire natural world trying to kill you. Time to go shopping for dinner, except there's no store, no shelves, no price tags, and most of the products are either trying to run away from you or actively planning to eat you first. Welcome to nature's grocery store, where everything is organic, nothing is guaranteed, and the checkout process involves a lot of running and screaming. Your shopping list is simple, anything edible that won't kill you. Your shopping cart is whatever you can carry in your arms or in crude baskets woven from plant fibers. Your budget is measured in calories burned versus calories gained, and most shopping trips end with you spending more energy than you acquire. The produce section is scattered across miles of wilderness. Berries might be ripe on that hillside, but you'll have to compete with bears for them. Nuts could be abundant in that grove, but you'll need to beat the squirrels to them. Roots are available if you can dig them up, identify them correctly, and avoid poisoning yourself in the process. Quality control is entirely up to you. Quality control is entirely up to you. Whole poisonous. There's no expiration date, no ingredients list, and no nutritional information. You're relying on knowledge passed down through generations, personal experience, and luck. Get it wrong, and you're looking at anything from indigestion to death. The meat section is even more challenging. Your protein sources are walking around with their own opinions about becoming your dinner. Deer can outrun you. Boar can gore you. Even rabbits are fast and clever. Your success rate in the meat department is low, and every shopping trip is a potential emergency room visit. Fish are a more reliable protein source if you can find them and catch them. This involves standing in cold water for hours using primitive nets, spears, or traps. Your hands go numb, your feet freeze, and you're competing with bears, birds, and other humans for the same fish. Plus, you need to know which fish are safe to eat and which ones will make you sick. The dairy section doesn't exist unless you're brave enough to approach a wild animal with milk and attempt to extract it without getting killed. This is not recommended for obvious reasons. Your shopping hours are determined by the animals and plants, not your convenience. Many animals are active at dawn and dusk, which means you're hunting in low light when it's easy to make mistakes. Plants don't care about your schedule. They ripen when they ripen, and you either get them then or you don't get them at all. The competition for food is fierce. You're not just competing with other human groups, you're competing with every other animal in the ecosystem. Bears want the same berries you want. Wolves want the same deer you're tracking. Birds are after the same insects you might need to eat. Storage is limited to what you can preserve without refrigeration. Smoking meat, drying berries, caching nuts for winter. These are all technologies you need to master. But preservation is risky because it requires time, resources, and often fire, which can attract unwanted attention. Your shopping trip might take days, cover dozens of miles, and result in very little food. Or you might get lucky and find a seasonal abundance of something. But you can't plan on luck, and nature doesn't care about your meal planning. There's no customer service, no returns, and no guarantees. If you eat something poisonous, there's no antidote. If you get injured while hunting, there's no medical insurance. If you can't find food, there's no backup plan, except starvation. Welcome to the world's most challenging grocery store, where the prices are paid in blood, sweat, and the constant risk of death. Your receipt is staying alive one more day. Time to cook dinner with your state-of-the-art kitchen equipment, a fire pit, some rocks, and whatever crude tools you've managed to make from sticks and stones. Martha Stewart would weep. Hell, a medieval peasant would feel sorry for you. Your stove is a carefully maintained fire that represents the difference between life and death. Not just for cooking matters, fire provides warmth, light, protection from predators, and the ability to process food that would otherwise be inedible or dangerous. Let that fire go out, and you're looking at a very cold, very dangerous night, trying to restart it with friction methods that work maybe half the time. You're using flint and steel if you're lucky, or more likely, you're using friction methods like a bow drill or fire plow. These techniques require dry tinder, proper technique, and often take 20-30 minutes of sustained effort even when you know what you're doing. In wet weather, it can be nearly impossible. Your cookware consists of whatever you can improvise. Flat rocks for cooking surfaces, hollowed out gourds for boiling water, animal hides for storing liquids, clay pots if you've figured out pottery, which is a complex technology that requires finding the right clay, shaping it properly, and firing it without cracking. Food safety is entirely your responsibility, and the consequences of getting it wrong are severe. Undercooked meat can give you parasites or bacterial infections. Improperly processed plant foods can poison you. Cross-contamination from using the same tools for different foods can make you sick. And you're doing all of this without soap, running water, or any understanding of bacteria. Your menu is determined by what you caught, found, or foraged that day. Meal planning is impossible because you never know what will be available. Some days you feast on a successful hunt. Other days you're eating roots, grubs, and whatever edible plants you can find. Many days you eat nothing at all. Cooking methods are limited to roasting over fire, boiling in whatever containers you have, and smoking for preservation. No baking, no frying, no steaming. Everything is cooked directly over flames or coals, which means a lot of food gets burned on the outside and raw in the middle. Seasoning is whatever you can find in nature. Some plants have strong flavors that can make food more palatable, but salt is a rare and precious commodity. Most of your food tastes like whatever it naturally tastes like, which in the case of many survival foods is not particularly appetizing. Food storage is a constant challenge. Without refrigeration, meat spoils quickly. You can smoke it, dry it, or salt it if you have salt. But these preservation methods take time and resources. Any food you don't eat immediately is at risk of spoilage, theft by animals, or contamination. Kitchen hygiene is basic at best. You're cleaning your tools with sand, grass, or water if it's available. Your hands are washed when you can manage it. But soap doesn't exist. Food preparation surfaces are whatever flat rocks or pieces of wood you can find, and they're cleaned by scraping off the visible debris. The dining room is wherever you happen to be sitting, usually around the fire pit, which doubles as your stove, heater, and social center. Everyone eats together because sharing food is essential for group survival, but also because food is too precious to waste and too dangerous to let anyone hoard. Your dishwasher is a nearby stream if you're lucky, or just scraping plates clean with sticks and rocks. Dishes are whatever natural containers you can find or make, and they're used until they break or rot away. Leftovers are a luxury you can't afford. You eat what you have when you have it, because food that sits around attracts scavengers and pests. The concept of meal planning is replaced by the more pressing concern of finding something minus anything to eat. Welcome to the world's most challenging kitchen, where every meal is an accomplishment and every day without food poisoning is a victory. Feeling under the weather? Too bad. There's no doctor, no pharmacy, no health insurance, and definitely no WebMD to help you self-diagnose. Welcome to hunter-gatherer healthcare, where the medical advice is don't get sick and the treatment plan is hope you don't die. Your healthcare system consists of whatever folk knowledge your tribe has accumulated over generations, plus a lot of trial and error. Some of it works, some of it doesn't, and some of it actively makes things worse. The problem is you won't know which category your treatment falls into until it's too late to matter. The diagnostic process is simple. You either feel bad, you try to figure out why. Are you poisoned, infected, injured, cursed by angry spirits? The treatment options are limited, so the diagnosis often doesn't matter much anyway. Your pharmacy is the natural world around you. Certain plants have medicinal property. Willow bark for pain, echinacea for immune support, various herbs for digestive issues. But plants are tricky. The dose that helps you might be very close to the dose that kills you, and plant potency varies by season, soil conditions, and preparation methods. Pain management is primitive. You might chew on certain roots or leaves, but mostly you just endure it. Broken bones are set by whoever in your group has the steadiest hands and the strongest stomach. There's no anesthesia, no pain medication, and no sterile conditions. You bite down on a stick and hope you don't pass out. Surgery is limited to what you can do with sharp stones and fire. This means basic wound cleaning, removing obvious foreign objects, and cauterizing wounds to stop bleeding. The infection rate is astronomical, and the survival rate for major injuries is depressingly low. Dentistry doesn't exist. Tooth problems are solved by either ignoring them until they get better or pulling the tooth out with whatever tools are available. Dental abscesses can kill you, and often do because the infection spreads to your bloodstream. Mental health care is non-existent. Depression, anxiety, and trauma are just part of life. You either cope or you don't. The support system is your family group, but they're dealing with their own survival issues and may not have much emotional energy left over for counseling. Childbirth is handled by the women of the group with whatever knowledge they've accumulated. There's no prenatal care, no sterile conditions, and no medical intervention if things go wrong. Maternal mortality is high, infant mortality is even higher, and everyone just accepts this as normal. Disease spreads quickly through close-knit groups. A cold becomes pneumonia, a cut becomes a life-threatening infection, a food poisoning can kill or cripple. There's no understanding of bacteria, viruses, or basic hygiene as disease prevention. Your vaccination program consists of surviving childhood diseases and building immunity the hard way. Most children don't make it to adulthood, and those who do are the ones with strong immune systems and good luck. The concept of preventive care doesn't exist. You don't get checkups, screenings, or early intervention. You deal with health problems when they become obvious, which is often when they're already serious or terminal. Your health insurance is the goodwill of your group. If you're useful and well-liked, people might share food and resources while you recover. If you're not, you might be left behind when the group moves on. It's a harsh but practical reality when resources are limited. The average life expectancy is maybe 35-40 years if you're lucky. Most people die from injuries, infections, or diseases that would be easily treatable today. Getting old is rare, and being disabled is often a death sentence. Your medical records are whatever scars you carry and whatever your family remembers about your health history. There's no documentation, no medical history, and no way to track patterns or learn from mistakes. Welcome to healthcare in the Stone Age, where the best medicine is not getting sick in the first place, and the second best medicine is being tough enough to survive whatever goes wrong. Time to talk about your wardrobe and personal grooming routine. Spoiler alert, you're not going to be winning any style awards, and personal hygiene is more about survival than attractiveness. Welcome to Stone Age fashion, where function trumps form, and everything smells like dead animal. Your clothing is whatever animal hides you've managed to acquire and process. This isn't as simple as it sounds. Turning a dead animal into wearable clothing requires skinning, cleaning, tanning, and sewing, all of which are skilled trades that take time and practice to master. The skinning process is bloody, messy, and needs to be done quickly before the hide spoils. You're using sharp stone tools to carefully separate the skin from the meat and fat, trying not to cut holes in what will become your clothing. Every mistake means a weaker garment that won't last as long. Tanning is a complex chemical process that you're doing with whatever materials you can find. Brain tanning uses the animal's own brain tissue to process the hide. Vegetable tanning uses bark and other plant materials. Both methods require specific knowledge, proper timing, and a lot of manual labor. The sewing process uses sinew, plant fibers, or thin strips of hide as thread. Your needle is a sharp splinter of bone or a thorn. Every stitch is done by hand, and the quality depends on your skill level and the tools available. Poorly sewn clothing falls apart quickly, which can be deadly in harsh weather. Your wardrobe is extremely limited. You might have 1 or 2 sets of clothing, and that's it. There's no changing clothes for different occasions, no seasonal wardrobes, and no fashion choices. You wear whatever you have until it falls apart, then you make something new if you can. Footwear is basic leather wrapping or crude moccasins. Your feet are constantly exposed to rough terrain, sharp objects, and harsh weather. Foot injuries are common and can be debilitating when your primary mode of transportation is walking. Personal hygiene is hit or miss. You might bathe when you encounter clean water, but that's not guaranteed to be often. Soap doesn't exist, so you're cleaning yourself with sand, rough plants, or just water. Your skin is weathered, scarred, and often dirty. Hair care consists of whatever you can do with your hands, and maybe a crude comb made from bone or wood. Your hair is probably matted, full of debris, and home to various insects. Cutting hair is done with sharp stones, which is neither precise nor particularly safe. Dental hygiene is chewing on fibrous plants and using pointed sticks to pick food out of your teeth. Your teeth are yellowed, worn down from chewing tough food, and probably loose or missing. Dental problems are common and can be life-threatening. Body odor is just part of life. Everyone smells like smoke, animal fat, and whatever they've been doing that day. Personal scent is actually useful for group recognition and individual identification in a world without mirrors or good lighting. Your grooming tools are whatever you can make or find. A sharp stone for cutting, a stick for cleaning, water for washing when available. There are no brushes, no combs, no mirrors, and no grooming products of any kind. Makeup doesn't exist as a beauty product, but body painting might be used for ceremonial purposes, camouflage, or protection from insects. You're using mud, plant dyes, and charcoal to create patterns that have meaning beyond decoration. Your accessories are purely functional. Jewelry might be made from bones, stones, or shells, but it usually serves a purpose beyond decoration, storing small tools, marking status, or carrying spiritual significance. Clothing repair is a constant necessity. Your garments are exposed to rough use, sharp objects, and weather. Mending is done with whatever materials are available, and the results are functional rather than attractive. Fashion trends are non-existent. Everyone in your group dresses similarly because they're all using the same materials and techniques. Regional differences exist based on available animals and climate, but individual style is a luxury you can't afford. Your laundry service is washing clothes in whatever water source you can find, scrubbing them with rocks or sand, and hoping they dry before you need them again. Clothes are washed infrequently because the process is time-consuming and damages the fabric. Welcome to Stone Age fashion, where looking good is less important than staying warm, dry, and alive. Your personal style is functional survivor, and your grooming routine is still breathing. After a long day of trying not to die, you need some entertainment. But forget Netflix, books, music streaming, or even simple board games. Your entertainment options are limited to whatever you can create, using your imagination, your voice, and whatever random objects you can find lying around. Your television is the fire pit. This is where the group gathers every evening to share stories, make plans, and socialize. The flickering flames provide light, warmth, and a focal point for group activities. The programming consists of whatever stories people feel like telling, which can range from useful information to complete fiction. Your music is whatever you can create with your voice and simple instruments. Singing is important for group bonding, religious ceremonies, and entertainment. You might have drums made from animal skins, flutes carved from bone, or simple rattles made from gourds. The music is functional rather than artistic. It serves to coordinate group activities, mark important events, and provide emotional release. Dancing is both entertainment and exercise. Many hunter-gatherer societies use dance for religious ceremonies, storytelling, and social bonding. The dances often mimic animal movements, celebrate successful hunts, or mark seasonal changes. Everyone participates, because excluding people from group activities is dangerous for social cohesion. Your books are the stories and knowledge stored in people's heads. Important information is passed down through oral tradition, which means memorization is a crucial skill. Everyone needs to remember hunting techniques, plant identification, tool-making processes, and tribal history. The stories aren't just entertainment, they're survival manuals and cultural preservation. Games are simple and use whatever materials are available. Throwing contests with stones or sticks, races and physical challenges. Simple strategy games played with rocks or scratched into dirt. These aren't just fun, they're training for real-world skills like accuracy, speed and tactical thinking. Your social media is face-to-face conversation with the same 20-30 people you see every day. Everyone knows everyone else's business because privacy doesn't exist, and group harmony is essential for survival. Gossip spreads quickly, and social dynamics are intense because you can't escape or block people you don't like. Dating is a group activity because individual preferences are less important than group survival and genetic diversity. Partnerships are often arranged by families or tribal leaders, based on practical considerations. Romance exists, but it's secondary to the need for strong hunting partners and successful child rearing. Your nightlife consists of sitting around the fire until it's time to sleep. There's no electricity, no late-night venues, and no staying up past dark, unless it's absolutely necessary. The night is dangerous, and artificial light attracts predators and uses precious fuel. Art is functional, rather than decorative. Cave paintings, carved tools, and decorated clothing serve to communicate information, mark territory, or invoke spiritual protection. Creating art is a skill that contributes to group survival, rather than individual expression. Your comedy is whatever funny stories people share around the fire. Humor is important for group morale, but it's often dark and based on survival situations. Practical jokes are rare because wasting time and resources on pranks can be dangerous. Sports are training for real-world skills. Throwing competitions prepare you for hunting. Wrestling matches develop combat skills. Running races build endurance. These activities are fun, but they're also serious preparation for survival situations. Your theater is storytelling around the fire. People act out hunts, dramatic encounters, or mythical tales. The performances are interactive, with audience participation and improvisation. These stories serve multiple purposes: entertainment, education, cultural preservation, and social bonding. Religious and spiritual activities are a major form of entertainment and social interaction. Ceremonies, rituals, and spiritual practices provide meaning, group cohesion, and connection to the natural world. These activities often involve music, dancing, storytelling, and altered states of consciousness. Your social calendar is determined by natural cycles and group needs. Celebrations mark successful hunts, seasonal changes, coming-of-age ceremonies, and other important events. These gatherings are rare and precious opportunities for extended socializing and cultural activities. Competition is friendly but serious. Wrestling matches, hunting contests, and skill demonstrations allow people to show off their abilities and establish social status. But competition is balanced against the need for group cooperation and mutual support. Welcome to Stone Age entertainment, where your social life revolves around survival. Your entertainment is interactive, and your evening programming is whatever stories people feel like sharing around the fire. Time to talk about education in the Stone Age. Forget schools, teachers, textbooks, or even the concept of childhood as a protected period of learning. In the hunter-gatherer world, education is survival training, and it starts the moment you can walk. Your school is the entire natural world. Your classroom is wherever the group happens to be that day. Your textbooks are the accumulated knowledge of your elders, passed down through demonstration and practice. Your teachers are everyone in the group, because everyone's survival depends on passing on crucial skills. The curriculum is simple. Learn everything you need to know to stay alive. This includes plant identification, animal behavior, weather prediction, tool making, hunting techniques, food preparation, shelter construction, and basic medicine. There's no mathematics beyond counting, no literature beyond oral stories, and no science beyond what you can observe and apply. Your preschool education involves following adults around and watching what they do. By age 3 or 4, you're learning to identify basic plants, understand animal tracks, and help with simple tasks. The learning is hands-on and immediate. You touch, taste, and experiment with everything under careful supervision. Elementary education is about mastering basic survival skills. You learn to make fire, identify edible plants, set simple traps, and help with food preparation. The teaching method is demonstration followed by practice. You watch an adult do something, then you try it yourself until you get it right. There's no homework, but there's also no time off. Learning is continuous because survival is continuous. You're always observing, always practicing, always preparing for the next challenge. The stakes are high because making mistakes can get you or your group killed. Your report card is whether you're still alive and contributing to group survival. There are no grades, no standardized tests, and no academic achievements. Success is measured by practical skills and social integration. Physical education is built into daily life. You're walking miles every day, carrying heavy loads, climbing rough terrain, and developing the strength and endurance necessary for survival. Sports are training for real-world skills. Throwing contests prepare you for hunting, wrestling matches, develop combat skills. Sex education is practical and immediate. You learn about reproduction, childbirth, and childcare by observing and participating in these activities. There's no modesty about natural processes, and everyone needs to understand the basics, because group survival depends on successful reproduction. Your guidance counselor is the tribal elder who helps you understand your role in the group. Career counseling is simple. You'll be a hunter-gatherer like everyone else, but you might specialize in particular skills based on your aptitude and interests. The special education doesn't exist as a formal concept, but the group does accommodate individuals with different abilities. Someone who can't hunt might excel at plant identification. Someone with a disability might contribute through straw tilling or tool making. The group needs diverse skills, so there's room for different types of contribution. Your graduation ceremony is initiation into adulthood, which typically happens around puberty. This might involve ritual challenges, demonstrations of skill, or spiritual ceremonies. You're considered an adult when you can contribute fully to group survival. Parent-teacher conferences are daily conversations between parents and elders about children's progress. Everyone in the group has a stake in education, because everyone's survival depends on the next generation learning essential skills. Your library is the collective memory of the group. Important information is stored in songs, stories, and traditions that everyone helps preserve. Forgetting crucial knowledge can be deadly, so information is repeated and reinforced constantly. Standardized testing is surviving real-world challenges. Can you start a fire in wet weather? Can you identify poisonous plants? Can you track animals? These aren't theoretical questions, they're practical skills that determine whether you live or die. Your school lunch is whatever the group managed to find that day. Nutrition education is immediate and practical. You learn which foods provide energy, which ones are safe to eat, and which ones will kill you. The lesson plan is simple. Eat the wrong thing, and you die. Your extracurricular activities are survival skills. Music and dance are tied to religious ceremonies and group bonding. Art is functional. Need decorating tools, creating maps or making marks that convey important information. Sports are training for hunting and combat. There's no summer vacation because survival doesn't take a break. There's no weekend because animals don't stop being dangerous on Saturday. There's no sick day because the group can't afford to lose productive members. Your student loans are the obligation to pass on knowledge to the next generation. Education is a group investment, and everyone who benefits from it has a responsibility to teach others. The debt is paid forward, not back. Discipline is immediate and practical. Dangerous behavior is corrected quickly because it can get people killed. Social misbehavior is addressed through group pressure and consequences. There's no detention, but there might be exclusion from group activities or reduced food sharing. Your diploma is survival to adulthood. Your degree is the respect of your peers and elders. Your certification is the ability to contribute meaningfully to group survival. There's no ceremony, no cap and gown, just the recognition that you've learned what you need to know to stay alive. Welcome to Stone Age education, where the classroom is the world, the curriculum is survival, and graduation means you're ready to face the daily challenge of not dying in a world that's actively trying to kill you. Time to talk about love, dating and relationships in the Stone Age. Forget romantic comedies, dating apps, or the luxury of choosing partners based on compatibility and attraction. In the hunter-gatherer world, romance is complicated by survival needs, group dynamics, and the simple fact that your dating pool consists of maybe 20 people, half of whom are related to you. Your dating life is severely limited by practical considerations. You can't date someone from another tribe unless you're willing to never see your family again, or convince them to join your group. Long-distance relationships are impossible when communication methods involve walking for days to deliver a message. The concept of meeting someone is foreign because you already know everyone in your group. You've grown up together, worked together, and survived together. There are no strangers, no mysterious new people to discover. Your romantic options are limited to people you've known your entire life. Physical attraction is still important, but it's balanced against practical considerations. Is this person healthy? Are they skilled at survival tasks? Will they contribute to group welfare? Can they handle the physical demands of hunter-gatherer life? These aren't shallow questions, they're survival assessments. Your pickup lines are demonstrations of skill rather than clever conversation. Bringing back a successful hunt, showing expertise at tool making, or demonstrating knowledge of plant medicine. These are the things that make you attractive to potential partners. Showing off is literally showing your value as a mate. Privacy for intimate relationships is virtually non-existent. You're living in close quarters with extended family, and everyone knows everyone else's business. Romantic relationships develop under constant observation and group scrutiny. Private moments are rare and precious. Marriage negotiations involve families and tribal leaders, not just the individuals involved. Partnerships need to benefit the group, maintain social harmony, and ensure genetic diversity. Personal preferences matter, but they're not the only consideration. Your wedding ceremony is a group celebration that serves multiple purposes. It marks the formal recognition of a partnership, celebrates the union of two families, and provides entertainment and social bonding for the entire group. The ceremony is simple but meaningful, involving rituals that connect the couple to the natural world and their community. Divorce is complicated by practical considerations. You can't just move out and start over somewhere else. Separation affects the entire group dynamic and might require one person to leave the group entirely. The decision involves not just the couple but the entire community. Your relationship counseling comes from tribal elders who have experience with partnership dynamics, but their advice is practical rather than psychological. Focus on cooperation, communication, and mutual support, rather than personal fulfillment or emotional satisfaction. Infidelity is dangerous to group harmony and survival. Extramarital relationships can create conflicts, jealousy, and social tension that threaten group cohesion. The consequences are severe because the group can't afford internal strife when external threats are constant. Your sex life is influenced by practical considerations like shelter, privacy, and the need to avoid unwanted attention from predators. Intimate moments are brief and require careful planning. Romance is quick and opportunistic rather than leisurely and elaborate. Pregnancy and childbirth are group concerns because they affect everyone's survival. Pregnant women need extra food and protection. Childbirth requires skilled assistance and creates vulnerable members who need care. Every pregnancy is a group investment in the future. Child rearing is a community responsibility. Everyone helps raise the children because everyone's survival depends on the next generation learning essential skills. Your children are also the group's children, and their success or failure affects everyone. Your relationship with your partner is as much about survival partnership as romantic love. You're hunting and gathering together, sharing resources, protecting each other from danger, and working toward common goals.
Love
is practical as much as emotional. Conflicts in relationships are resolved through group intervention when necessary. Personal disputes can't be allowed to threaten group harmony. Mediation comes from elders, and the focus is on resolution rather than individual satisfaction. Your support network for relationships is the entire group. There's no individual counseling, no private therapy, no professional help. Relationship advice comes from people who have faced similar challenges and found ways to make partnerships work under difficult circumstances. Growing old together means surviving long enough to become elders, which is an achievement in itself. Long-term relationships are proven partnerships that have weathered the challenges of survival, loss, and constant change. Welcome to Stone Age romance, where love is real but practical, where partnerships are about survival as much as affection, and where your relationship status is everyone's business, because everyone's survival depends on group harmony. Let's talk about death in the hunter-gatherer world. This isn't a morbid obsession, it's a practical reality that affects every aspect of daily life. Death is constant, immediate, and unavoidable. Your relationship with mortality is intimate and personal because it's always just one mistake away. The average life expectancy is maybe 30-35 years if you're lucky. Most people don't make it to what we'd consider middle age. Getting old is rare and respected because it means you've survived challenges that killed most of your peers. Reaching 50 is extraordinary. Reaching 60 is legendary. Child mortality is staggering. Maybe half of all children die before reaching adulthood. Disease, accidents, predation, starvation, and exposure claim victims regularly. Every child who survives to reproductive age is a miracle and a precious resource for the group. The leading causes of death are what we'd consider minor problems today: a broken bone that doesn't heal properly, a cut that gets infected, food poisoning from eating the wrong plant, pneumonia from getting too cold and wet, pneumonia from getting too cold and wet. These aren't dramatic deaths. They're slow, painful, and often preventable with modern medicine. Violent death is common. Attacks by predators, accidents during hunting, conflicts with other groups, and injuries from daily activities all contribute to mortality. The natural world is actively trying to kill you, and it succeeds regularly. Your funeral arrangements are simple and practical. Bodies are typically buried, left for scavengers, or disposed of in whatever way prevents disease and doesn't attract predators. The ceremony is brief because the living have immediate survival needs that can't wait for extended mourning. Grief is real but must be managed carefully. Extended mourning can be dangerous because it interferes with survival tasks. The group needs everyone to function, so emotional processing happens quickly. There's support, but it's practical rather than therapeutic. Your will and estate planning consist of distributing your few possessions among group members. Tools, clothing, and personal items are too valuable to bury with the dead. Everything gets recycled because resources are too scarce to waste. Life insurance is the goodwill and mutual support of the group. If you die, your family members will be cared for by the community, but only if they can contribute to group survival. Dependency is dangerous when resources are limited. Your legacy is the knowledge you've passed on, the children you've raised, and the contributions you've made to group survival. There are no monuments, no written records, no permanent memorials. You're remembered as long as people who knew you are still alive. The concept of a good death is dying quickly, rather than lingering with injury or disease. Prolonged illness is dangerous for the individual and burdensome for the group. A clean, fast death is considered fortunate. Your medical advance directive is understood but not formalized. Everyone knows that resources can't be wasted on people who can't recover. Difficult decisions about end-of-life care are made by the group based on practical considerations. Suicide is rare, but not unknown. Sometimes people choose death rather than become a burden on the group. This isn't necessarily viewed as mental illness, but as a practical decision about resource allocation and group survival. Your death affects the entire group, because everyone's survival depends on group size and skill diversity. Losing a skilled hunter, an experienced gatherer, or a knowledgeable elder weakens the group's ability to survive. Every death is a loss of human capital. Religious and spiritual beliefs about death vary, but most hunter-gatherer societies view death as a natural part of life, rather than a tragedy to be avoided at all costs. Death is transition rather than termination, and the focus is on living well rather than living long. Your death preparation is ongoing, because death can come at any time. Essential knowledge is shared continuously. Skills are taught to multiple people. No one person holds information that the group can't afford to lose. The dying process is typically quick and often unattended. People die from injuries, exposure, or sudden illness without the benefit of pain medication, life support, or intensive care. Death is raw and immediate rather than medicalized and prolonged. Your death records are whatever people remember about you. There's no documentation, no official death certificate, no cause of death analysis. You simply stop being present, and life continues for the survivors. Falling from heights, drowning, getting lost, or being injured by tools all contribute to mortality. The margin for error is small, and mistakes are often fatal. Your death notice is word of mouth within the group. There's no formal obituary, no death announcement, no funeral home. People simply know that you're gone, and they adjust their expectations and plans accordingly. The impact of death on the group is immediate and practical. Work must be redistributed, knowledge must be preserved, and survival strategies must be adjusted. Grief is real, but adaptation is essential. Welcome to death in the Stone Age, where mortality is constant, life is precious, and every day you wake up alive is a victory against odds that are stacked against you. Let's talk about how seasons affect your Stone Age existence. Forget the romantic idea of living in harmony with nature. Nature has moods, and most of them involve trying to kill you in creative and unpleasant ways. Your survival depends on understanding and adapting to seasonal changes that can mean the difference between abundance and starvation. Spring sounds nice, doesn't it? New growth, warmer weather, baby animals everywhere. But spring is also when predators are most active, when flooding makes travel dangerous, and when many plants are either not yet ready to eat or are at their most toxic. Spring is promise and danger in equal measure. The spring thaw creates new challenges. Rivers that were frozen solid become raging torrents. Paths that were stable become muddy quagmires. Ice that provided easy travel breaks up and becomes deadly. Your winter shelters might flood, forcing you to move when you're weak from winter survival. Plant foods in spring are limited and often dangerous. Many plants are toxic when young and only become safe after specific processing. Early spring is often called starvation time because winter food stores are depleted, but new food isn't yet available. This is when groups are most vulnerable. Your spring activities focus on preparation and recovery, repairing tools damaged by winter use, scouting for new food sources, tracking animal movements as they emerge from winter dormancy, planning migrations to follow food sources. Everything is about positioning for the abundance of summer. Summer is the time of plenty, but it brings its own challenges. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, and sun exposure are constant threats. Food spoils quickly in warm weather. Water sources dry up. Insects swarm in clouds that can drive animals and humans to madness. The summer workload is intense because you're not just surviving, you're preparing for winter, gathering and processing food for storage, making and repairing tools, collecting materials for winter clothing and shelter. The days are long, but the work is longer. Your summer diet is the most varied of the year. Berries, fruits, nuts, roots, and vegetables are abundant. Fishing is good because fish are active. Hunting is challenging because animals are scattered and have plenty of natural food. But you're also competing with other animals for the same resources. Summer social activities are at their peak. Multiple groups might gather at seasonal food sources. This is when mate selection happens, when knowledge is shared, when trade occurs. But large gatherings also mean increased risk of conflict and disease transmission. Fall is preparation time. Everything you do in fall determines whether you'll survive winter. Gathering nuts, berries, and seeds for storage, hunting animals that are fattening up for winter, smoking and drying meat, collecting materials for winter clothing and shelter. Your fall activities are frantic because time is running out. The first frost can kill plants overnight. Animal behavior changes as they prepare for winter. Weather becomes unpredictable. Every day of good weather is precious because bad weather is coming. Fall hunting is crucial because animals are at their fattest and most nutritious. But it's also dangerous because animals are preparing for winter and may be more aggressive. Large game animals are migrating, which means tracking them across unfamiliar territory. Food storage in fall requires sophisticated techniques. Smoking meat to preserve it, drying berries and seeds, caching nuts in locations you'll be able to find later, building storage facilities that will protect food from weather and animals. Everything must be done correctly because mistakes mean starvation. Winter is the ultimate test of survival. Everything you've done all year is tested by months of cold, darkness, and limited food. Your shelters, your food stores, your clothing, your tools, everything must work perfectly because there's no margin for error. Your winter shelter is more than just protection from weather. It's your lifeline. A well-built shelter conserves heat, provides protection from wind and snow, and creates a safe space for the group. A poorly built shelter is a death trap. Winter food is whatever you manage to preserve, plus whatever you can hunt or gather in harsh conditions. Fresh food is rare and precious. Stored food must be rationed carefully because running out means starvation. Hunting is difficult and dangerous, but sometimes necessary. The psychological challenges of winter are as dangerous as the physical ones. Months of darkness, cold, and confinement can cause depression, anxiety, and social conflicts. Group harmony is essential because you're trapped together with no escape. Your winter activities are limited by weather and daylight. Tool making and repair, storytelling, and cultural activities. Planning for spring, rationing food and resources, maintaining fires and shelter. Everything is about conserving energy and resources. Weather prediction is a crucial skill because getting caught unprepared by storms, cold snaps, or other weather events can be fatal. You learn to read clouds, wind patterns, animal behavior, and other natural signs. Your life depends on accurate weather forecasting. Seasonal migration is often necessary to follow food sources and avoid harsh weather. But migration is dangerous because it involves travel through unfamiliar territory, exposure to weather, and encounters with other groups. Timing is crucial because leaving too early or too late can be deadly. Your seasonal calendar is based on natural cycles rather than arbitrary dates. The berry season, the nut season, the migration season, these are the markers that determine your activities and movements. You don't have weekends or holidays, just the endless cycle of seasonal survival. Welcome to seasonal survival, where each season brings new challenges and opportunities, where your success in one season determines your survival in the next, and where nature's calendar is the only schedule that matters. Time to talk about technology in the Stone Age. Forget smartphones, laptops, or even the wheel. Your entire technological arsenal consists of sharp rocks, pointy sticks, and whatever you can make from animal parts and plant materials. And your life literally depends on mastering these primitive tools. Tool making begins with finding the right materials. Not every rock makes a good tool. You need stone that fractures predictably, holds a sharp edge, and won't break under stress. Flint, obsidian, and chert are excellent. Granite and limestone are useless. Learning to identify good tool stone is a survival skill. The knapping process, turning rocks into tools, is both art and science. You're using precise strikes with a hammerstone to fracture flakes off a core stone. Too much force and you shatter the rock. Too little and nothing happens. The angle, force, and timing must be perfect. Your basic toolkit includes a hand axe, which is a multi-purpose cutting tool, scrapers for cleaning hides and processing plants, awls for making holes in leather and wood, knives for cutting and food preparation. Each tool requires specific techniques and materials. Hafting, attaching stone points to wooden handles, is crucial for making effective tools. This requires cordage made from plant fibers or animal sinew, adhesives made from tree sap or animal glue, and careful fitting to ensure the tool won't come apart under stress. Your bow and arrows represent advanced technology. The bow requires selecting the right wood, shaping it properly, and creating the right balance of flexibility and strength. Arrows need straight shafts, proper fletching, and sharp points. The entire system requires precision engineering. Spear throwers or atledals are mechanical devices that extend your arm and increase throwing power. They're simple in concept, but require precise construction and skilled use. A good atledal can increase your throwing range and accuracy significantly. Your fire-making technology is literally life or death important. Friction methods like the bow drill require proper materials, correct technique, and perfect timing. You need tinder that catches sparks, kindling that catches from tinder, and fuel that sustains the fire. Clothing technology involves multiple complex processes. Tanning hides requires chemical knowledge, proper timing, and skilled technique. Sewing requires making thread from plant fibers or animal sinew, creating needles from bone or thorns, and understanding garment construction. Your shelter technology ranges from simple lean-tos to complex multi-season structures. Advanced shelters require understanding of structural engineering, materials science, and environmental protection. The difference between good and bad shelter technology is life and death. Food processing technology includes grinding stones for processing seeds and nuts, boiling baskets for cooking, and smoking racks for preserving meat. Each technique requires specific tools, materials, and knowledge that must be passed down through generations. Your hunting technology includes traps, snares, and deadfalls. These require understanding of animal behavior, mechanical principles, and precise construction. A well-made trap can provide food with minimal energy expenditure. A poorly made trap is a waste of time and materials. Water technology involves finding, purifying, and storing water. This includes knowing which water sources are safe, how to purify contaminated water, and how to store water for travel. Waterproof containers made from animal organs or plant materials are advanced technology. Your medical technology is basic but essential. Splints for broken bones, tourniquets for bleeding, and herbal preparations for illness. Sharp tools for removing foreign objects from wounds. Basic surgical procedures using stone knives and plant fiber sutures. Transportation technology is limited to what you can carry. Baskets, bags, and carrying frames allow you to transport more goods. Selids and tramway help move heavy loads. But everything must be human-powered because pack animals haven't been domesticated. Your communication technology includes smoke signals, drum messages, and signal fires. These allow basic communication over distances but require pre-arranged codes and clear weather conditions. Most communication is still face-to-face. Tool maintenance is constant because your tools are your lifeline. Resharpening stone edges, replacing broken hafts, repairing damaged equipment. Tools that aren't maintained properly fail when you need them most. Innovation is slow and incremental. New tools and techniques are developed gradually through trial and error. Successful innovations are shared within the group and passed down to future generations. Failed innovations can be deadly. Your tool inheritance is the knowledge and skills passed down from previous generations. This includes not just how to make tools but how to use them effectively, how to maintain them, and how to adapt them to different situations. Quality control is essential because your tools must work perfectly when your life depends on them. There's no manufacturer's warranty, no customer service, and no replacement parts. You make it right the first time, or you might not get a second chance. Welcome to Stone Age technology, where your entire technological world fits in a small bag. where innovation is measured in small improvements over generations, and where the difference between good and bad tools is the difference between life and death. Let's talk about conflict in the hunter-gatherer world. Forget the romantic notion of peaceful, harmonious societies living in balance with nature. When resources are scarce, territories overlap, and survival is at stake, conflicts arise. And in the Stone Age, conflict resolution often involves sharp objects and people getting hurt. Your weapons are the same tools you use for hunting and daily tasks. Spears, arrows, knives, and clubs. There's no specialized military equipment, because you can't afford the luxury of tools that only serve one purpose. Your hunting bow becomes your war bow. Your skinning knife becomes your combat knife. The causes of conflict are usually practical rather than ideological. Competition for food sources, water rights, or territorial boundaries. Disputes over hunting grounds or seasonal campsites. Revenge for past wrongs. Raids for resources when your group is facing starvation. Your military training is the same as your survival training. Learning to use weapons effectively, understanding tactics and strategy, developing physical fitness and endurance. The skills that make you a good hunter also make you a dangerous fighter. Group warfare is small-scale but deadly. Conflicts typically involve 10 to 30 people on each side. The battles are short, violent, and decisive. There's no prolonged siege warfare or complex military campaigns. Fights are quick and brutal. Your armor is whatever protection you can improvise. Thick leather clothing, wooden shields, or protective padding made from animal hides. But armor is heavy and limits mobility, so most fighting is done with minimal protection and maximum speed. Tactics are based on surprise, speed, and overwhelming force. Ambushes are common because they maximize your advantages and minimize your risks. Direct confrontation is avoided when possible because casualties are too costly for small groups. Your military intelligence is whatever information you can gather about enemy movements, numbers, and capabilities. Scouting is essential because knowing your enemy's location and intentions can mean the difference between victory and massacre. Prisoner taking is rare because prisoners are a burden that small groups can't afford. Conflicts tend to be fought to the death, or until one side flees. Mercy is a luxury that can't be afforded when resources are limited and threats are immediate. Your military logistics are whatever you can carry. There's no supply train, no military infrastructure, or no support services. You fight with whatever weapons and food you brought with you. Extended campaigns are impossible because you can't support them. Alliances are temporary and based on mutual benefit. Groups might cooperate against common threats, but these alliances dissolve when the threat is gone. Trust is limited because today's ally might be tomorrow's enemy. Your psychological warfare involves intimidation, deception, and terror, making your group appear larger and more dangerous than it is, using surprise and shock to demoralize enemies. The goal is to win without fighting whenever possible, or raids are more common than battles because they're less risky and more profitable. Quick strikes to steal resources, capture individuals, or inflict damage before escaping. The goal is to weaken enemies without exposing your own group to significant risk. Your military leadership is informal and based on experience and skill. The best hunters and fighters naturally become war leaders, but leadership is temporary and situation-specific. There's no permanent military hierarchy. Fortifications are simple but effective, choosing defensive positions with natural advantages, building basic barriers from stones and logs, creating escape routes and rally points. The goal is to make your position difficult to attack. Your military communications are basic signals and pre-arranged plans. Simple hand signals, bird calls or smoke signals. Complex coordination is impossible. so tactics must be simple and easily understood. Guerrilla warfare is common because small groups can't afford direct confrontation with larger forces. Hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, and harassment campaigns. The goal is to wear down enemies while avoiding decisive battles. Your military medicine is basic first aid and wound care, stopping bleeding, treating injuries, and getting wounded fighters back into action. Advanced medical care is impossible in combat situations. Victory is defined by survival rather than conquest. The goal is to protect your group, secure resources, and eliminate threats. There's no territorial expansion or political domination because you lack the resources to control large areas. Your military traditions are passed down through stories and demonstrations. Combat techniques, tactical knowledge, and strategic thinking are taught through practice and experience. Military history is oral tradition. Peace negotiations are simple and direct. Conflicts are resolved through compensation, territorial agreements, or mutual avoidance. Complex diplomatic protocols don't exist because groups can't afford prolonged negotiations. Your military honor is based on protecting your group and fulfilling your obligations. Courage in combat is valued, but reckless bravery that gets people killed is not. The goal is effective fighting, not glorious death. Welcome to Stone Age warfare, where conflicts are personal, combat is deadly, and the stakes are survival itself. There's no glory in war, just the harsh reality of protecting your group from those who would take what you need to survive. Time to talk about spirituality in the hunter-gatherer world, when your survival depends on forces beyond your control. Mother, animal behavior, plant growth, disease. You need something bigger than yourself to believe in. Religion isn't just comfort, it's practical psychology for dealing with an unpredictable and dangerous world. Your religious worldview is animistic. Everything has a spirit. Animals, plants, rocks, rivers, weather patterns. These spirits have personalities, motivations, and the power to help or harm you. Your survival depends on maintaining good relationships with the spiritual world. Prayer is practical conversation with the spirits. You ask for good weather, successful hunts, protection from predators, and healing for the sick. You thank the spirits for food, shelter, and safety. You apologize when you've done something that might have offended them. Your religious ceremonies are tied to survival activities, hunting rituals to ensure successful kills and safe returns, harvest ceremonies to thank plant spirits for providing food, healing ceremonies to drive away illness and injury, coming-of-age ceremonies to mark the transition to adult responsibilities. Religious leadership is informal and based on spiritual knowledge and experience. Shamans, medicine people, and spiritual guides are individuals who have demonstrated special connection to the spirit world. But everyone participates in religious activities because everyone needs spiritual protection. Your religious calendar is based on natural cycles. Seasonal celebrations mark the changing of the seasons. Lunar ceremonies track the moon's phases. Daily rituals mark sunrise and sunset. Religious time is natural time, not artificial schedules. Sacred sites are places where the spiritual world seems especially close. Unusual rock formations, special trees, water sources, or places where significant events occurred. These sites are treated with respect and may be visited for ceremonies or spiritual guidance. Your religious practices include offerings and sacrifices, leaving food for spirits, burning sacred plants, or dedicating the first kill of a hunt to spiritual forces. These practices maintain reciprocal relationships with the spirit world. Taboos are religious rules that govern behavior. Certain foods may be forbidden at specific times. Particular animals might be sacred and cannot be hunted. Specific behaviors might be prohibited to avoid offending spirits. Breaking taboos can bring supernatural punishment. Your religious education is learning how to interact properly with the spiritual world, understanding which spirits control which aspects of nature, learning proper prayers, rituals, and ceremonies, developing sensitivity to spiritual signs and omens. Divination is attempting to understand the future or hidden knowledge through spiritual means, reading animal behavior, interpreting dreams, or observing natural signs. These practices help make decisions when information is limited and stakes are high. Your religious art includes cave paintings, carved objects, and decorated tools. These aren't just decoration, they're spiritual communication. Images of animals might be hunting magic. Geometric patterns might represent spiritual concepts. Art is functional spiritual technology. Death and afterlife beliefs provide comfort and meaning in the face of constant mortality. Concepts of souls, spirits, and continuation after death help explain what happens when people die. Funeral rituals help the living cope with loss and maintain connections to the deceased. Your religious healing combines practical medicine with spiritual intervention. Herbal remedies are accompanied by prayers and rituals. Whole's physical treatment is combined with spiritual healing. The goal is to address both physical and spiritual causes of illness. Religious conflict is rare because different groups often have similar spiritual beliefs adapted to their specific environments. But conflicts can arise over sacred sites, spiritual protocols, or religious obligations. Your religious innovation is slow and careful. New spiritual practices are tested cautiously because the consequences of offending spirits can be severe. Religious change is conservative because spiritual traditions are survival strategies. Religious community is the entire group because everyone shares the same spiritual worldview and faces the same spiritual challenges. Religious activities strengthen group bonds and provide shared meaning and purpose. Your religious possessions are sacred objects that connect you to the spiritual world. Amulets, talismans, sacred stones, or blessed tools. These objects provide protection, spiritual power, or connection to ancestral spirits. Religious knowledge is memorized and passed down through oral tradition. Sacred stories, prayers, rituals, and spiritual wisdom must be remembered exactly because errors can have spiritual consequences. Your religious experience includes altered states of consciousness through fasting, rhythmic movement, or psychoactive plants. These experiences provide direct contact with the spiritual world and access to spiritual knowledge. Religious responsibility includes maintaining proper relationships with spirits, teaching religious knowledge to younger generations, and participating in group ceremonies. Everyone has religious obligations because everyone benefits from spiritual protection. Your religious worldview provides meaning and purpose in a harsh and unpredictable world. It explains why things happen, provides hope for the future, and offers comfort in the face of suffering and death. Welcome to Stone Age spirituality, where religion is practical psychology, where spirits are real forces that affect daily life, and where maintaining proper relationships with the supernatural world is essential for survival. Let's talk about what it was like to be a kid in the Stone Age. Forget childhood as a protected period of play, learning, and gradual development. In the hunter-gatherer world, childhood was more like an intensive survival training program with a high dropout rate. You either learned fast or you didn't make it to adulthood. Your first challenge as a Stone Age baby was simply surviving birth. Without modern medical care, childbirth was dangerous for both mother and child. Many babies didn't make it through their first day, And those who did faced a world designed to eliminate the weak, the slow, and the unlucky. If you made it past birth, your next challenge was staying fed. Breastfeeding was your only food source for the first few months, which meant your survival depended entirely on your mother's health and nutrition. If she got sick, injured, or died, your chances of survival dropped to nearly zero unless another nursing woman in the group could take over. Your cradle was whatever your mother could carry while she worked. This might be a simple sling made from animal hide, a basket lined with soft materials, or just your mother's arms. Comfort was secondary to portability because the group couldn't slow down for baby furniture. Your nursery was the entire natural world, with all its dangers and discomforts. You were exposed to weather extremes, biting insects, predators, and diseases from birth. There was no baby-proofing, because there was no safe environment to proof. Everything was potentially dangerous. Sleep training meant learning to sleep through noise, movement, and discomfort. You slept when the group slept, woke when they woke, and adjusted to their schedule, rather than having them adjust to yours. Crying at night could attract predators, so babies who couldn't learn to sleep quietly were a danger to everyone. Your first toys were natural objects: sticks, stones, bones, and shells. But these weren't just entertainment, they were learning tools. Playing with sticks taught you about tools and weapons. Handling stones developed your motor skills and sense of weight and balance. Everything was educational because everything was potentially useful for survival. Potty training was simple and immediate. Once you could walk, you learned to relieve yourself away from the camp like everyone else. There were no diapers, no gradual transition, and no accidents. You learned quickly because hygiene was essential for group health. Your first lessons were in basic safety. Don't wander away from the group. Don't touch things that might be dangerous. Don't make noise that could attract predators. Don't eat anything unless an adult says it's safe. These weren't suggestions, they were life or death rules enforced with immediate consequences. Education started as soon as you could walk and pay attention. All by age 3 or 4, you were learning to identify basic plants, understand animal tracks, and help with simple tasks. Although there was no kindergarten readiness, you were ready for real-world learning as soon as you could comprehend it. Your teachers were everyone in the group because everyone's survival depended on the next generation learning essential skills, but learning was primarily through observation and imitation rather than formal instruction. You watched adults work and gradually took on more responsibility as your skills developed. Playtime was survival practice. Games involved throwing objects to develop accuracy for hunting. Running and climbing games built the physical skills needed for daily life. Mock hunting and gathering expeditions taught practical skills while seeming like fun. Your peer group was crucial for learning social skills and survival techniques. Children learned from each other as much as from adults. Older children taught younger ones, creating a continuous chain of knowledge transmission. But the group was small, so your social circle was limited to maybe 5-10 other children of various ages. Dangerous behavior was corrected swiftly because mistakes could be fatal. Social misbehavior that threatened group harmony was addressed quickly. Punishment was usually social exclusion or extra work rather than physical violence, but the consequences were serious. Your coming-of-age ceremony marked the transition from childhood to adult responsibilities. This might happen around puberty and often involved tests of skill, endurance, or knowledge. There was no gradual transition. You were either a child or an adult, with different expectations and responsibilities for each stage. Childhood diseases were often fatal because there was no medical treatment. A simple fever, infection or injury could kill a child who would easily recover with modern medicine. Survival to adulthood was an achievement that proved you had strong genes and good luck. Your responsibilities increased gradually but steadily. By age 5, you were helping with food gathering and simple tasks. By age 10, you were contributing meaningfully to group survival. By puberty, you were expected to perform adult-level work and make adult-level contributions. Education was gender-specific because survival roles were specialized. Boys learned hunting, tool-making, and warfare skills from men. Girls learned gathering, food processing, and childcare skills from women. But both genders learned basic survival skills because everyone needed to be self-sufficient. Your schedule was determined by group needs rather than child development theories. You worked when there was work to do, rested when the group rested, and adapted to whatever circumstances arose. There were no scheduled nap times, meal times, or bedtimes. Learning was hands-on and immediate. You learned to make fire by making fire, not by reading about it. You learned to identify plants by going out and finding them. You learned to hunt by participating in actual hunts. Theoretical knowledge was useless. Practical skills were everything. Your mistakes had real consequences because there was no cushioned learning environment. Eating the wrong plant could make you sick. Making noise at the wrong time could attract predators. Losing or breaking tools could affect the group's survival. Every lesson was reinforced by natural consequences. Mental development was focused on practical intelligence rather than abstract thinking. You learned to observe carefully, remember details, solve practical problems, and make quick decisions. Academic subjects didn't exist because they weren't relevant to survival. Emotional development involved learning to cope with harsh realities from an early age. Death, violence, and suffering were normal parts of life. Children learned to be resilient, adaptable, and emotionally tough because emotional fragility was a survival liability. Your childhood ended when you could fully contribute to group survival, which might be as early as 12 or there was no extended adolescence, no gradual assumption of adult responsibilities. You were either dependent or productive, child or adult. The children who survived to adulthood were tough, skilled, knowledgeable, and adapted to a harsh world. They had learned everything necessary for survival and were ready to pass that knowledge on to the next generation. Childhood in the Stone Age was short, intense, and effective at producing capable adults. So when you hear people romanticizing the natural way of raising children, remember that nature's way involved high mortality rates, harsh discipline, and immediate consequences. Modern childhood, with its protection, gradual development, and focus on individual growth, is a luxury that Stone Age families couldn't afford. Let's talk about getting old in the Stone Age. Spoiler alert, most people didn't. But for the few who survived long enough to accumulate grey hair, wrinkles, and a vast store of hard-won knowledge, old age was both a privilege and a responsibility. You were living proof that survival was possible, and your knowledge was the group's insurance policy against disaster. First, let's define old in hunter-gatherer terms. If you made it to 40, you were getting up there. If you reached 50, you were ancient. Anyone who survived to 60 was basically a walking miracle, a repository of decades of survival knowledge that couldn't be replaced. Your value to the group wasn't based on your physical capability. Those were already declining. Your worth was measured in knowledge, experience, and wisdom. You had survived famines, harsh winters, predator attacks, diseases and conflicts that had killed your peers. That survival experience was priceless. The knowledge you carried was literally irreplaceable. You remembered the location of seasonal food sources that only appeared during rare conditions. You knew which plants were edible during famine years when normal food sources failed. You understood weather patterns, animal behavior, and seasonal cycles that younger people had never experienced. You were responsible for passing on survival techniques, cultural knowledge, and practical wisdom to the younger generation. This wasn't optional. The group's future survival depended on your ability to transfer your knowledge before you died. Storytelling became one of your most important functions. The stories you told weren't just entertainment. They were survival manuals, disguised as narratives. Stories about past famines taught food preservation techniques. Tales of dangerous animals conveyed safety information. Historical accounts of conflicts provided strategic knowledge. Your memory was the group's library, database, and historical archive all in one. You remembered which seasons brought specific challenges, which techniques worked in different situations, and which mistakes had been made before. Your recollections could prevent disasters and save lives. Physical decline was managed as well as possible, but resources were limited. Your diet might be adjusted to easier to digest foods. Your work assignments would shift to tasks that didn't require physical strength. But there was no retirement, no nursing care, and no medical intervention for age-related conditions. Your social status was complex. On one hand, you were respected for your knowledge and experience. On the other hand, you were becoming a burden that consumed resources without contributing as much physical labor. The balance between respect and resentment could be delicate. Decision-making often became your primary contribution. Your experience with similar situations in the past made you valuable for strategic planning, risk assessment, and problem solving. Young hunters might have energy and strength, but you had the wisdom to know when to hunt and when to avoid danger. Your role in conflict resolution was important because you had seen how disputes played out in the past. You understood the long-term consequences of different approaches to problems. Your intervention could prevent conflicts from escalating or help resolve disputes before they threatened group harmony. Medical knowledge was often concentrated in older individuals who had accumulated decades of experience with healing techniques, herbal remedies, and treatment methods. Your knowledge of which treatments worked and which ones didn't could mean the difference between life and death for group members. Your spiritual role often increased with age. Many hunter-gatherer societies viewed elders as closer to the spirit world, with special knowledge of religious rituals, spiritual practices, and connections to ancestral wisdom. Your spiritual guidance could provide comfort and meaning during difficult times. The burden of decision-making about your own future was harsh but realistic. As your physical abilities declined and your resource consumption exceeded your contributions, you faced difficult choices. Some elders chose to separate from the group to avoid becoming a burden. Others were supported by family members who valued their knowledge. Your legacy preparation involved intensive teaching in your final years. Howls, you worked desperately to pass on everything you knew to younger group members. Howsies, and the casual knowledge sharing fine. It was urgent transfer of survival information that might not exist anywhere else. The respect you received was earned through decades of survival and contribution. Younger group members understood that reaching old age required exceptional skill, knowledge, and luck. Your survival was proof that the knowledge you carried was effective. Your daily routine adapted to your physical limitations while maximizing your intellectual contributions. You might spend your time making tools, preparing food, watching children, or planning group activities. Your work was less physically demanding but often required more skill and experience. The challenges of aging included joint pain, reduced vision and hearing, decreased mobility and cognitive decline. Without modern medical care, these conditions progressed without treatment, but your accumulated knowledge often compensated for physical limitations. Your influence on group decisions could be significant because your experience provided historical perspective. You had seen the long-term consequences of different choices and could advise against repeating past mistakes. Your counsel was often sought for major decisions. The end-of-life process was typically quick and practical. Extended illness or disability couldn't be supported for long periods. When your condition became terminal, the focus was on comfort rather than treatment. Death was accepted as natural and inevitable, rather than something to be fought at all costs. Your final contributions were completing the transfer of knowledge and providing closure for relationships. The knowledge you carried died with you unless it had been successfully passed on. Your final weeks or months were often spent in intensive teaching sessions with younger group members. The mourning process for elders was often more elaborate than for younger people, because their loss represented the destruction of irreplaceable knowledge. The group understood that your death meant the permanent loss of information that could have saved lives in future crises. Your legacy lived on, in the knowledge you had successfully transmitted, the techniques you had taught, and the wisdom you had shared. But much of what you knew died with you because there was no way to record or preserve information beyond human memory. Getting old in the Stone Age was a rare achievement that came with both privileges and responsibilities. You were valued for your knowledge but burdened by the urgency of passing it on. You were respected for your survival but aware that your time was limited. You were living proof that the human spirit could endure almost anything, but also a reminder that everyone's time was finite. A few who reached old age in hunter-gatherer societies were the ultimate survivors, the keepers of knowledge and the bridges between past and future. They had earned their status through decades of successful survival, and their contributions to group knowledge were literally priceless. You've experienced the daily grind of hunting and gathering, survived the challenges of Stone Age medicine and technology, navigated the complex social dynamics of small group living, and hopefully gained a new appreciation for just how hard life was for our ancestors. Let's take a step back and appreciate the incredible distance we've traveled as a species. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle that we've been exploring lasted for roughly 95% of human history. For hundreds of thousands of years, this was simply how humans lived. Every person who survived to reproduce had mastered the skills, knowledge, and attitudes necessary to thrive in this challenging environment. The transition from hunting and gathering to agriculture, which began around 10,000 years ago, was the most significant change in human history. It wasn't just a change in how we got food. It was a complete transformation of human society, technology, and culture. But that transition took thousands of years and didn't happen everywhere at once. Even today, there are still a few hunter-gatherer societies living traditional lifestyles in remote parts of the world. These groups provide valuable insights into how our ancestors lived and what we might have lost in our journey to modern civilization. But they're also under constant pressure from the expanding modern world, and their traditional ways of life are increasingly difficult to maintain. We often look back at hunter-gatherer society with a mixture of nostalgia and horror. On one hand, we romanticize the idea of living close to nature, having strong community bonds, and being free from the stresses of modern life. On the other hand, we're horrified by the constant danger, high mortality rates, and brutal realities of survival without modern technology and medicine. The truth is that both perspectives are partially correct. Hunter-gatherer life did offer certain advantages: more egalitarian social structures, sustainable relationships with the environment, diverse and nutritious diets when food was available, and strong social bonds within small groups. But it also involved constant insecurity, high rates of infant and maternal mortality, frequent violence, and vulnerability to natural disasters. Modern life has solved many of the problems that plagued our ancestors. We have abundant food, safe shelter, effective medicine, and protection from most of the natural hazards that threatened hunter-gatherer societies. But we've also created new problems: environmental degradation, social isolation, mental health issues, and diseases of civilization, like obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. The skills and knowledge that made hunter-gatherers successful are still relevant today, even if we don't use them in the same ways. The ability to observe carefully, adapt quickly, work cooperatively, and solve practical problems are just as valuable in the modern world as they were in the Stone Age. Our bodies and brains are still essentially those of hunter-gatherers. We're adapted for the physical activity levels, social group sizes, and environmental challenges that our ancestors faced. Many of our modern health and social problems stem from the mismatch between our evolutionary heritage and our current lifestyle. Understanding our hunter-gatherer past helps us understand ourselves. Why do we crave fatty and sugary foods? Because our ancestors needed high-energy foods to survive periods of scarcity. Why do we form close emotional bonds with small groups of people? Because cooperation was essential for survival. Why do we have such strong responses to natural environments? Because our ancestors lived their entire lives in direct contact with nature. The knowledge systems that hunter-gatherers developed were remarkably sophisticated. Their understanding of ecology, botany, animal behavior, weather patterns, and human psychology was detailed, accurate, and effective. Much of this knowledge has been lost as societies transition to agriculture and industrialization, but some of it is being rediscovered and appreciated by modern scientists. The social innovations of hunter-gatherer societies are also worth studying. Their methods of conflict resolution, resource sharing, and collective decision-making offer insights for modern communities struggling with inequality, environmental challenges, and social cohesion. Climate change and environmental degradation are forcing us to reconsider our relationship with the natural world. The sustainable practices and ecological knowledge of hunter-gatherer societies provide models for how humans can live within environmental limits, rather than constantly expanding resource consumption. The resilience and adaptability that characterized hunter-gatherer societies are qualities we need today as we face rapid technological change, environmental challenges, and social disruption. Our ancestors' ability to adapt to changing conditions and work together for mutual survival offers lessons for navigating modern challenges, but we can't and shouldn't try to return to the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. The world has changed too much, and our knowledge and technology offer too many benefits to abandon. Instead, we can try to integrate the wisdom and values of our ancestors with the capabilities and opportunities of modern life. This might mean developing more sustainable relationships with the environment, creating stronger community bonds in our neighborhoods, learning practical skills that connect us to the natural world, or simply appreciating the incredible journey that brought us from Stone Age survival to modern comfort. The next time you turn on a light, take a hot shower, grab food from the refrigerator, or call for medical help, remember the long road that led to these conveniences. Every technology we use, every institution we rely on, every comfort we enjoy, is built on the foundation of human ingenuity and perseverance. that began with our hunter-gatherer ancestors. You wouldn't have lasted a day as a hunter-gatherer, and that's perfectly fine. You're not supposed to. Are the beneficiary of thousands of generations of human innovation, cooperation, and progress. Your ancestors survived the Stone Age, so you don't have to. But maybe understanding what they went through can give us perspective on our own challenges and appreciation for how far we've come. The same qualities that helped our ancestors survive, observation, adaptation, cooperation, innovation, and perseverance, are still the keys to thriving in the modern world. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle shaped us in fundamental ways that we're only beginning to understand. Our genes, our instincts, our social behaviors, and our psychological needs all bear the imprint of hundreds of thousands of years of evolution in small group, natural environments. We carry that heritage with us today, even in our air-conditioned offices and urban apartments. We are still in many ways Stone Age people living in a space-age world. Understanding that heritage can help us make better choices about how to live, how to treat each other, and how to relate to the natural world that sustains us. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep in your comfortable, safe, warm bed, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey that brought you here. You are the descendant of countless generations of survivors who faced unimaginable challenges and found ways to overcome them. Your hunter-gatherer ancestors would be amazed by the world we've created. They would be proud of how far we've come, how much we've learned, and how well we've used the foundation they laid for us. And maybe they'd be impressed that we still remember them, still tell their stories, and still try to learn from their wisdom. The long journey from Stone Age to smartphone is far from over. We're still evolving, still adapting, still facing new challenges and opportunities. The same spirit of innovation and cooperation that carried our ancestors through the Stone Age is still alive in us today. And who knows, maybe someday our descendants will look back at our time with the same mixture of appreciation and amazement that we feel when we think about our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Maybe they'll marvel at how we survived without their advanced technologies, just as we marvel at how our ancestors survived without ours. The human story is still being written, and you're part of it. The same courage, creativity, and determination that carried our species through hundreds of thousands of years of Stone Age survival is still alive in you today. Use it well. Sweet dreams, modern human. You've earned them.